Resilience. The ability to readily recover from illness or depression or adversity. Resilience, being able to withstand setbacks, broken hearts and broken dreams, financial crisis, loss of loved ones, loss of enterprise, and loss of health. How would you ever handle it if you lost everything you had today? How long would you be depressed and upset and angry? What would it take for you to pull yourself up and start all over again?
And that's what we have, wherever we are, with whatever hand that life has dealt us. We have the freedom of spirit. We can go through life whining and weeping, or we can have the kind of spirit that people will say, hey, there's a blessing to be around that person. I'm reminded of a young guy who was on a bus, a little young fellow, and some kids were picking at him, some bigger guys, and they kept on thumping him on the head and hiding their hands. And so he got tired of them doing that, and he stood up so he would not be around them, out of their reach. And they took him and said, sit down. They set him down. And he stood back up and said, I don't want to sit down. They said, sit down. Didn't we tell you? And they pushed him back down. I don't want to sit down. They said, sit down. And they held him down. And he looked at him. He said, you might hold me down, but I'm standing up inside myself. And what we have got to do is know that there's something about you. There's something about us. There's a power in you that regardless of what happens to you, you can stand up inside of yourself. I think that's what the poet meant when he says, out of the night that covers me, black as a pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods there may be for my unconquerable soul. You have an unconquerable soul. I say to you that there is a Nelson Mandela in you, that kind of commitment, that kind of spirit, that kind of personal power, that kind of vision of allowing yourself to be used by life is in you, that all of us came here to do something, to make a difference. And in a historical context, the world will never be the same again because you came this way.
You have trouble being resilient because you think everything works like laptops or like computers, that if you rub it, it'll click for you, it'll move for you, it'll open for you. And you try thing after thing after thing. I tried that and it didn't work, and I tried that and it didn't work, and I tried that and it didn't work. Because you think that trying something for a little while ought to bring you a big return. But life does not work like Apple. Some stuff takes time. Greatness takes time. It takes time. It takes time to build your brand. It takes time to build your life. It takes time to build your career. You got to be prepared to get 1,000 no's to get one yes. Life does not click and it appears. Be resilient. Stick it out. Winter, spring, summer, fall, resilient.
How resilient are you? Could you handle it? Could you learn from all your disappointments and start all over again? What would it take? Well, number one, it would take a lot of self-discipline. It would take a lot of positive self-talk to muster up the energy to begin again. It would take a lot of concentration to block out the noise and the clutter of all the negative voices trying to get through. It would take a lot of discipline to balance the fear and anxiety with the knowing that if you did it once, you can do it all over again. It would also take what? A lot of self-reliance. Whether your losses had anything to do with you or not, your future success has everything to do with you. It would take a lot of self-reliance to avoid blame. What's happened has happened. You would need to get on with your life and begin again. It would take a lot of faith. It would take a lot of faith and trust in God to move ahead. If you lost everything tomorrow and were gathering all the courage to try again, it would take a lot of self-appreciation, knowing that you have the skills and the talent and the strength to do it one more time. The ability to bounce back from adversity. No matter how large or how small, you lose a client, one of your biggest ones. Losing this client is going to negatively affect things for a while. The first thing you do is to figure out why you lost this business. What role did you play? What part are you responsible for? You just can't rant and rave around the office yelling and screaming at those around you. No, you'll lose respect. Respect that's hard to regain once you've lost it. You have to approach the situation rationally and figure out how to bounce back from your loss. You have to evaluate the situation and then start a plan to recapture the lost business. Network with associates to bring in a similar client or a larger one. You can't sit back and dwell on what's happened. No, you've got to get back into the marketplace and recapture what's been taken from you. Get back at it and replace what's gone. Now maybe your loss is a personal loss. Death of a loved one, divorce, loss of a very special friendship. If your loss is a deeply personal one, you must approach the situation a little differently. You must be patient with yourself. And give yourself time. Time to grieve, time to regroup. The stages we go through in loss, be it death of a loved one, death of a relationship, or death of an enterprise. If the death is a literal one or a figurative one, the stages are the same. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And only by going through these stages and reaching acceptance can we rebound and begin again. It's said that children are often more resilient than adults. Why? Well, maybe it's because they don't evaluate their current situations based on past experiences. They approach it in a fresh way, a new way. And in their own minds, they deal with loss much better than adults. Children who grow up in the unfortunate circumstances of poverty or abuse or neglect, children who grow up in these conditions and become successful, are known as dandelion children. Because if they can succeed and prosper with terrible conditions, they can grow anywhere. To be able to grow and prosper and succeed despite our current conditions. To be able to grow and prosper and succeed despite our losses. To be resilient. Cultivating a resilient character turns what others would call failure into success. A resilient person won't give up. A resilient person will, in spite of all obstacles and setbacks, keep doing it until. To build a resilient character, you must have, number one, insight. The ability to ask tough questions of yourself and be honest with your answers. If you had something to do with your loss, be honest and responsible for it. Number 2, resilience is independent. A resilient person counts only on themselves to bounce back into life. Number 3, although resilience is independent, it's also tied to others. The more people you are responsible to, the greater the motivation to begin again. The stronger the reason, the stronger the action. The 4th component of resilience is initiative. The ability to take charge of the situation, the ability to take charge of the problem, the ability to stand up and do whatever is necessary to get back on course. A resilient person is, number 5, creative. Being able to look at the situation and creatively determine the best way out. To look for solutions. To be enterprising in your approach towards starting over. A resilient person has humor. Number 6, a sense of humor. They may cry till they start laughing, but a sense of humor is so important when turning your life around. You've got to take your ambitions seriously, and you've got to take yourself seriously, but you've also got to be able to laugh at yourself sometimes. Your situation. Somebody says you'll look back on this and laugh someday. Well, maybe today is the day to start. And here's the last one, morality. Whatever you do to get back on your feet, whatever you do to bounce back into life, make sure it's moral. Success, if it is yours to keep, must be at the service of others.